This is the story of the giving of the law and the covenant with Moses. Now, 3 months after Israel had left Egypt, they camped in the desert before Mount Sinai, and Moses went up the mountain to God, and God told Moses to tell Israel how he had carried them on eagle's wings, brought them out of Egypt, and carried them on eagle's wings, and brought them to himself, and therefore they were to fully obey God's covenant, and they would be the Lord's treasured possession. They'd be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So Moses gathered the elders, and he told them all that the Lord had said, and the people agreed to obey the Lord. Now the Lord told Moses that in 3 days he would come down on Mount Sinai in a thick cloud, and he would speak to Moses in the hearing of the people, so that the people would trust Moses. And Moses was to put a boundary around the mountain to keep the people from going up the mountain or even touching the mountain, or they would have to be stoned or shot with arrows. They couldn't approach the mountain. They could only do it at the hearing of the ram's horn. So in 3 days, so Moses went down the mountain, consecrated the people, they washed their clothes, and in 3 days a thick cloud covered the mountain, and there was thunder, and there was lightning, and there was a loud trumpet blast that grew louder and louder, and all the people in the Israelite camp, they trembled with fear, and they kept their distance. And then Moses, he led the people before the mountain, and even the mountain itself trembled violently. And then Moses spoke to the Lord, and the Lord answered Moses and called Moses up the mountain. And the Lord told Moses not to let the people force their way up the mountain or they would perish. And Moses said that they couldn't, because the Lord had warned them to put limits around the mountain and set it apart as holy. So the Lord told Moses to bring Aaron up the mountain, and then the Lord would give these 10 commandments to give to Israel. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol of anything in heaven above, or on the earth, or the waters below. Do not use the name of the Lord in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who misuses his name. Honor or remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, because in 6 days the Lord had created the heavens and the earth, and the 7th day he rested and set that apart as holy. Now, they were to honor their parents. They were to honor their fathers and mothers, so that it would go well with them, that they would live long in the land. They were not to kill. They were not to commit adultery. They were not to steal. They were not to bear false witness against their neighbors, or covet anything that belonged to their neighbors. Now when the people saw the smoke on the mountain, and they saw the lightning, and they heard the thunder and the trumpet blast, the people trembled, and they kept their distance, and they told Moses, Moses, we will listen to you, but don't let the Lord speak to us, or we'll die. But Moses said, do not be afraid. The Lord is testing you to teach you the fear of God in order to keep you from sinning. So the people kept their distance, and Moses approached the Lord in the thick cloud. And the Lord would tell Moses to tell Israel not to make any gods of silver or gold, but to make an altar of earth where they would sacrifice their cattle and their sheep and their goats as burnt offerings and fellowship offerings to the Lord. And wherever the Lord would cause his name to be honored, there he would come and he would bless them. And this is the story of the covenant with Moses.